Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is an absolute meme factory. From the first explosive trend showing up in the form of the bagel effect,
He took a bagel! Alright, time to swing, just like I
to Miles Morales rizzes himself up, to maybe you should get off that kid's
I'm sorry, what?
to I'm gonna crease your J's, Spider-Man, to well, that was another easy adventure for Spider-Man, to canon events, to I respect every single Spider-Man in here, to thousands of other miscellaneous memes referencing the film. There's no doubt it's living up to its predecessor in terms of quote-worthy moments and shareable screen grabs. Seriously, each of the memes I mentioned prior have become so big they deserve their own videos, though if I were to discuss each one, I wouldn't possibly be able to keep up with the rate that they are popping out. Hence, this video will simply discuss the effect the Spider-Verse films have had on digital culture at large. So what is it about the Spider-Verse that has the attention of so many digital artists? Well, just as the first movie, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, spawned memes for years after its release in 2018, even to the point where the Prowler theme can still be seen in 2023, it's quite clear the film's vision and direction were made with a new generation in mind. And, to be frank, these movies just look a whole lot more visually interesting than other Spider-Man iterations. That being said, the whole Spider-Verse concept arguably first appeared outside of comics in the 2010 game Shattered Dimensions, which received favourable reviews and laid the foundations for many of the characters we see in the films and comics today.
I am Spider-Man.
And it's worth noting Miles Morales first appeared in a 2011 release of Ultimate Fallout, wherein he is required to take up the web-slinging mantle. However, due to the films he stars in, he's quickly become one of the most recognizable and popular heroes for the latest generation, and rightly so. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love the other films. Tobey Maguire's rendition is always my favorite, and his representation in the Bully Maguire memes indicates this is the case for many others. But the Miles Morales arc, initially based on the 2014 to 2015 comic book event, has something many of the other majorly popular films do not. This is because this Spider-Man is involved in a project that has changed what audiences thought cinema could be. The animation and art direction of the Spider-Verse films is like nothing we've ever seen prior to 2018. At least, other movies that tried to emulate that comic book style either ended up playing it too safe, or take it to a point where it becomes the tackiest part of the visual experience. Or filmmakers go squarely for live-action adaptations, again, often playing it safe to try and appeal to the largest market demographics possible. Tom Holland makes for a great Spider-Man, but his appearances feel less fresh and inspired. Point is, it's rare for filmmakers to pay homage to comic source material, usually because they are not coming from a space of love and immersion in that medium, and it's normally only stories that are lifted, not aesthetic styles. In this instance, the Spider-Verse references to comic books have become a method of abstract storytelling that their animators are able to take advantage of, and really work into a fluid and dynamic piece of art, and this keeps audiences invested via fresh visual language. Perhaps the only criticism that can be leveled towards the latest Spider-Verse film is that it's being cut into two halves, and cynically speaking, this may be done to generate more revenue from fans.
Call me old-fashioned, but I like it when movies, end.
However, they got damn lucky the first half is such a good movie, because after I saw it I wanted more, and not just because it ended on a massive cliffhanger. This bridge between comic and film was once assured to be impossible, but here we are, and screenwriters Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, responsible for hits like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs and the Lego Movie, have absolutely blown the doors open between the two mediums. They've managed to produce and write a compelling story accompanied by incredible voice acting, mind-bending aesthetics, and perfect comedic timing, all components desperately required to pull off major inspiration for meme creators. Of course, Across the Spider-Verse is fully aware of the effect it has on the internet. One of the biggest and most aesthetic moments is the reference to the classic Spider-Man pointing to himself memes, which takes place with every single Spider-Man in the multiverse pointing at each other at exactly the same time. It marks a fantastic mind-boggling moment in the film to demonstrate the pure scale of the space its characters inhabit, and for that alone, it's worth watching this movie in cinemas. And don't just take it from me that Spider-Man is a perfect candidate for meme culture. Academic interest in this hero consistently backs this idea up, with the article On Comics, Narratives and Transmedia Multiverses re-envisioning the wall crawler in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. The authors note that Spider-Man has become a transmedia piece between film and digital culture, asserting, worldwide, spectators wait in their seats for the after-credit scene of the latest superhero production to be shown a meme turned into an animated transmedia piece.
From the future, How dare you point at me?
You were pointing first.
Rude to point.
You're being very rude.
20 years ago, this would certainly not be a possibility within the world of cinema. It was extremely rare for the internet to have such a large influence on pop culture that it would change the manner in which new characters were announced, but Spider-Man has undeniably become intertwined with memes. Academic interest aside, there's more to these films than just audience corroboration. One of the biggest themes surrounding the Spider-Man stories is that the main character never seems to fit in.
Jesus, Parker, you are a freak.
He's always a bit of a nerd, and despite all his efforts to help people, he is always accosted by villains who hate him, or the Daily Bugle consistently publishing stories about him being enemy number one. Point is, Spider-Man is often a social outcast, which is absolutely a feeling a lot of people online can relate to. Not to mention, any teenager in general is going to feel like they don't fit in at some point as they try to figure themselves out. And watching the Spider-Verse films wherein Miles is always told he doesn't belong somewhere, whether that be at an elite school or within a group of Spider-Man who are exactly like him, is a fantastic way for audiences to become invested in the story as he learns to be himself and just keep going. Spider-Man is one of the most popular heroes in the world for good reason. He struggles with relationships, he has gone through momentous trauma and grief at a young age, and he always strives to help others even when they treat him like garbage. That's an ideal anyone can look up to, as he embodies complex feelings and processes highly relatable to children and adults. Ultimately, these movies are tackling human relationships and what it means to lose or create them, making for a good story even without all the fantastical shtick, which again makes them brilliant candidates for meme culture assimilation. Plus, the Spider-Verse films clearly set off a wave of multiverse content considering how popular the idea is, leading to multiverse becoming something of a genre from the mid-2010s to 2020s in the film industry, although of course it already was so in books, comics, TV shows and video games beforehand. It's just that right now, multiverse has become more of a mainstream concept. This effect could not be more personified by the release of No Way Home, wherein screenwriters Eric Summers and Chris McKenna directly confirmed this fact by pulling in Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield to link up with Tom Holland, as well as previous villains played by Willem Dafoe and Alfred Molina, tapping into the live-action Spider-Verse. This live-action iteration also notably took on the pointing Spider-Man meme, perhaps foreshadowing the fact that massive studios are now willing to publicly recognize the effect meme culture has had on prolonging the shelf life of their films. It's also worth mentioning, Across the Spider-Verse takes the relatability factor to Spider-Man and turns it up to 11 through the utilization of the multiverse. It's not just a vehicle to show cool heroes in different dimensions doing awesome shit, it's also a way for viewers to insert themselves in the story. Spider-Gwen becomes an insert for girls, Pavitra Prabhakar becomes a self-insert for those living in India, and so on. The potential is endless for international appeal with this story. In short, Spider-Verse films have become gigantic meme factories, churning out inspiration for artists at blinding speed, as the weeks after the latest film's release have become a free-for-all for unending references and audience participation in the form of artistic callbacks. Naturally, the first Spider-Verse film won an Oscar for Best Animated Feature in 2019, cementing it as both a critically acclaimed piece and fan favorite, and I wouldn't be surprised if Across the Spider-Verse were to receive the same honor. What meme would you guys like me to give a lesson in next? Let me know in the comments below.
And remember, like and subscribe! Or else.